Once again proving that in my endless quest to keep myself entertained enough to get through the day, I will watch just about anything.
What the hell are you doing? I saw a woman. That's gonna look real good on the insurance claim.
She looked a lot like my ex. Similar personality too, I'd say.
I need to catch this woman. This is a major discovery. This is the Nullarbor Nymph. The ageless blonde beauty. The legend is true.
I don't like this one bit. Not one bit.
Hello, this is Ranger Jake Stevens. I'm being chased by a naked woman.
Did you see that? She was gonna eat you. What the hell was that?
She's just gonna wait and watch, stalking us like a cougar.
I am a big fan of filmmaking documentaries, specifically behind the scenes and making of stuff. So I will happily track down and watch just about anything on that subject matter. Two of my favourites are Lost Soul, which talks about filmmaker Richard Stanley and the events that led to the 90s travesty that was the island of Dr. Moreau, and Making Venus, a story about two cousins whose egos get completely destroyed as they attempt to make their first feature film. In fact, Making Venus is a must-watch if you're about to embark on your own feature journey, as it perfectly demonstrates everything you shouldn't do. Thanks to things like Tubi and Amazon Prime, there's actually an abundance of material based around very obscure stuff. I tend to find the stuff about very independent and low-budget work much more compelling. One thing I found was an hour-long doco called How Not to Make a Horror Film, which details the failed attempt by filmmaker Mathew Wilkinson to shoot a low-budget horror movie in the Australian outback. Back in 2008, Mathew and his crew went out to an abandoned hotel in outback South Australia and spent a couple of weeks in freezing temperatures trying to make a film. At the end, they limped out of the desert having doubled their budget, ruined their health, nearly killed a few of their crew, and wound up with no movie as some of their equipment had failed. Honestly, it's a little heartbreaking. The end of that doco talks about the director's second attempt at a feature 4 years after the events of the doco, a low-budget, low-production and simple concept called the Nullarbor Nymph. I got curious about this follow-up film and tracked it down, which took a bit of work given that it's obscure, low-budget and independent. But I finally found it and gave it a watch. And you know what? For what it is, it kind of works. The story follows a couple of Water Australia workers in a mockumentary style as they travel along the Nullarbor Highway checking water supplies. They soon come into contact with an Aussie myth, the Nullarbor Nymph, a beautiful, curvaceous blonde that is said to hunt down men travelling through the desert, all to take advantage of them, shall we say. The story is based on an actual Australian myth that was apparently dreamed up by some advertising guys back in the 70s. They dressed some blonde model up in a fur bikini, took some photos, and a legend was born. Now, I am not going to say for a second that this is some lost hidden gem that is just waiting to be discovered by the greater public before getting the recognition it deserves. It ain't. In fact, the best way to describe this film is pub humour. Tit and dick jokes. But it's done well. It embraces the level of Sunday afternoon over a few beers, Triple M, lowbrow type humour it utilises, and works that to its advantage. The film is shot in a documentary style, mostly to make the most of the low production values. They obviously had no money to spend on this, but didn't try to pretend otherwise. The movie looks cheap, but that only takes away from it in a few moments where the sound is kind of crap. The director used friends and family to help fill out the cast, which can be incredibly obvious at times. But once again, this doesn't take away anything. Because of the nature of the film, it usually works quite well in context. I'm not going to tell anyone to rush out and see this film. If you're curious, the whole thing is on YouTube. I'll stick the link below. But there is definitely something to be admired here. Mathew was working with his own money, limited resources, and just blind determination, but managed to not only get a feature film completed, he crafted something that is watchable, enjoyable, and keeps you in, even if the subject matter is ridiculous. I've met a lot of people in my travels who like to call themselves filmmakers that would look down at this film and its director. The thing about those people is that most of them have never actually made a film of their own that can be measured against this. As I said, this film is not for everybody, but it's finished, and it does exactly what it set out to do. And it was made solely on the desire and determination of someone who wanted to be a filmmaker. And I have a lot of respect for that. Is the film good? That's tough to answer definitively, as it more or less depends on your point of view. But is the film good enough? Hell yes.